with life, everything comes with challenges. We know that. There are lots of challenges with everything. So we want to make sure that whatever we speak about tonight in terms of becoming a millionaire is practical. It's simple. You can take it and go and implement it. And you feel empowered. That's the most important part. You feel empowered to take the steps that we're going to talk about. So we have tonight with us CEO of Jamaican Teas Limited, John Mahfood. He's going to be joining us to share his millionaire journey and to give you guys tips as well that you can implement on your personal millionaire journey. So welcome to Money Classroom, Mr. Mahfood.
Thank you very much, Keisha.
All right, so we'll say to everyone that comes in, big up yourself. Welcome to Money Classroom. I'm very excited to have you on, and you were gracious enough to accept to be on at the final hours because we had some issues with our prior guest. He had some unavoidable circumstances. So I really appreciate that you were able to join us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, so we are gonna jump right into it. Can you tell us a little bit more about your company, Jamaican Teas?
Well, we started the company in 1996 with about 5 employees, and we were making the regular black Tetley tea, and we decided that we were going to start producing herbal teas because that is what Jamaicans grew up drinking, peppermint and ginger and cerasee, and it wasn't available in the supermarket. And we decided that's what we would try and do, and we would try and put it in a tea bag to make it make it easy to get at and easy to use. So that was the simple premise that we started the business, and most businesses start that way with a simple premise of providing something, providing a solution for customers that are not available, and it's normally things that are very easy, to think about. What you don't want to do is just duplicate what everybody else is doing, and so having started that production, it took a long time for consumers to get onto that, to get used to buying peppermint and those products in tea bags when most people were accustomed to boiling it and making it fresh. And once it caught on, we decided that we would also export it to the Caribbean, where the folks share a similar heritage to Jamaicans, and then later we decided to export it to the U.S., where there are many Jamaicans, as you know. And that was the basic premise on which the company was formed. Along the way, we worked very, very hard to solve problems of supplying, of getting the raw materials, and working very hard to make sure that our customers were getting the products. And even if they were ordering just a case in Canada or Barbados, we made sure and get it to them by plane. And we did everything to keep the business, to keep the customers satisfied, and took very little of the profits for ourselves and reinvested it. And so for the first 10 or so years, it was very tough going, and that's how businesses are. And you just, you just invest in your business if you have that vision and that determination, and that's what happened.
Yeah, so I love that, and you have a lot of nuggets in just that one paragraph. So I wanted to just jump a little bit deeper into it because you first said start a business. That's the first thing, right? And creating a business, you're creating an asset because you're creating cash flow. And then you mentioned The business should solve problems for people, right?
Right.
Because sometimes people start businesses that don't really provide a solution. They're just there, and they may wonder, the business never really take off. But you gave an important nugget that the business has to solve problems. And then you mentioned also, as the business is going, there are challenges along the way, but you persevered. You didn't say,
Right.
well, I'm not going to try this. I'm going to try something else. You
Correct.
persevered. So that's another important lesson. And also, you were very big on reinvesting the profits back into the business to keep it growing.
Correct.
So I know a lot of persons are on, and they themselves are just starting out in business and probably wondering, how do I make this successful? And I think those tips there are really valuable, because me myself starting Profit Jumpstarter, these are some of the things I'm learning as well as you go through. The hardest part has been the perseverance, because
That's right.
there are some rough days. So how can we push through that? How do we push through the tough times? What did you do?
Well, before I go there, I would say to you, when you go into a supermarket, Keisha, and you look, for instance, at the ketchup aisle,
Yeah.
in a big supermarket, there might be 10 different types of ketchups. Um, what differentiates them? And if nothing differentiates them except the price and the label, it is very likely that most of them don't really sell. So if you went to a supermarket and you had your ketchup, and tried to sell your ketchup to the supermarket on the basis that the label looks good or the price is good, it's not likely that they're going to take that product, because they have very limited shelf space, and for them to put it on, they would either have to take off another ketchup, or they would have to squeeze it in somewhere. So whatever you do, it has to be something unique. Don't just produce a variation of somebody else's product. Try to solve a problem for customers. And that's the key to it, is to be unique and sell something that solves people's problems. That's not that they can't go and buy at the supermarket somewhere, or that that is not available. The other point would be, as things get very tough. For instance, when we started to grow and we couldn't get enough peppermint locally and enough ginger locally, we could have said, okay, well, we don't have it available, and we will do what we can. But the customers wanted the product, and they were getting very upset with us by not having it. And so we had to find a way of getting peppermint and ginger, and we ended up having to import it. And that, in fact, is one of the big events that changed the fortunes of the company, is that when we found a solution to the supply of our raw material supply. And so we were not satisfied with just saying it's not available, so we'll add another different product. Also, we found, for instance, that a lot of our customers in the Caribbean were not really enthusiastic to take a peppermint or a ginger in a tea bag. They weren't accustomed to it, and they were not ready to order a container load, or 10 boxes or 100 boxes. So we had to make the decision we were going to send one box or one case. We might not make any money on selling that, but we wanted them to try it. And for a number of years, we lost money exporting. But eventually, it caught on as well. So there were periods when profits were very, very low, and the pressure was on. But we felt that was the right way for the company to grow, through exports, and so we overcame the obstacles, and didn't give up. And I think that's something that's really important. A couple of our export customers in the US say that they're very disappointed with Jamaican manufacturers, because they are very relaxed. If they can't ship, they don't ship, and they just say sorry. But that's not really good enough for a business to grow.
Yeah. And that's important because you chose to be creative rather than say, well, we don't have we don't have any input. Let's just not bother. This is how much we can make. We're capped here. So I'm curious to know what was going on with your mindset at that time. What were you saying to yourself to push that creativity? Because also people probably were doubting you and saying, well,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Let's just stop.
Well, I at the time I was kind of in the mindset that every problem has a solution, and I just kept on thinking of alternatives and thinking of how we could do it, and eventually the solution came. So that's also something that I believe in, that there are solutions to every single problem, and we think about it long enough, and we persevere, and we'll get that solution.
Yeah. So we have our question coming in. Sharifa, one of our students in the classroom, she's saying, could the raw materials be here? Like, is there a way also, rather than importing, we say, let's help to produce more locally? Was that probably something that was thought about or explored?
Some of our raw material, we make very many different herbal teas, so some of it is available in Jamaica. But the problem in our agriculture sector is that we are not really set up properly to do agriculture on a large scale. And so, for instance, if you take ginger, for example, in the places that grow ginger, they're growing hundreds of acres of it on flat land. In Jamaica, we may grow an acre or two on land that's not flat. It can't be mechanized. So that is a big problem with our agriculture in Jamaica, is that it's very inefficient. Even take, for instance, sorrel, which is a big item for us, but you would be surprised to know that sorrel is very big in many countries. It's one of the main drinks in Mexico, in Nigeria, in
Hmm.
Panama. Um, this is a huge product that they drink every day, and they reap it right throughout the year. And they also grow it on very large acreage. And so the price, we have to import sorrel because we can't get enough in Jamaica. And the price we pay may be uh, a tenth of the price of sorrel in Jamaica. So the issue is, if you're going to go into agriculture in a big way, to make money, it has to be done efficiently on large acreage. You have to do your research, and you have to know how to apply the fertilizer and the irrigation and so on.
Yeah.
Uh, that's a different thing. But Keisha, I wanted to maybe also talk a little bit for a few minutes about individuals who are working, and
Yes,
how they,
let's
they
talk
can
because
invest.
it is unique for sure. It is unique between being a business owner and a salaried person. Very different. So yes, let's go through that.
So I heard the testimonial. So I know that you have talked a lot about how you save money, how you pay yourself first. When I say pay yourself first, you take out whatever amount you're going to save, and that's the first thing that comes out of your pay when you get it, and how to make sure you invest regularly and this type of thing. So I won't go into that, but what I will say is that the economy today is, pretty good from the standpoint of investing money if you are an employee. um, Interest rates are at around, well, the Bank of Jamaica rate is about 7%, and it's pretty stable. It's going to come down though in the next year, and so bank interest and other savings is not going to be very good. And in fact, mostly you never get rich by putting your money in a bank or in a savings account. and that is a tendency in Jamaica for people to save in banks, building societies, and other things where they have the money sit down in an account, in a savings account, maybe getting 2 or 3%, maybe they're getting 4 or 5%, but that is basically a waste of money, and it's not a good form of savings because inflation is running at 4 to 6%. If the bank is paying you the same as inflation, then the money is not growing. The exchange rate is stable. The exchange rate has been stable for a long time now. So, whereas people would put money in US accounts and save in US dollars, I don't think that's a good way of saving money today and
Right.
investing.
Not
Um,
working again. Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
I mean, again, if you put it in US dollars, you may get 3% interest, but the
Right.
dollar is stable, so you're not going to be ahead of the game. So what I think is you have to look at investments that are going to grow in value. The stock market today is at a very, very low level, and I believe it is the right time to start investing in the stock market. Um, and you can invest in any stock market, but if you happen to be in Jamaica, I particularly like the Jamaican stock market. I know it, and there are many excellent companies that are trading at very low prices and that are going to go up. This our Jamaican stock market is going to go up nearer to the end of the year or early next year. It's at a very low level now. I feel that part of our problem why the stock market is doing badly is because of the uncertainty of the US economy and what the US are doing, and possibly the war in Ukraine and the impact on creating more uncertainty. But when you look at the junior stock market, for instance, or even the main market, there are many good stocks. There is I know your next speaker is from JMMB. That's a good stock. If you look at Lasco, manufacturing distributions, those are good stocks. Dolphin Cove, 138 Student Living. All of these stocks are going to go up. And my sense is that when you get paid, you take your whatever you decide you're going to save, you go and buy some stocks. You open a brokerage account and you spend 10,000 or 15,000 every month and you put it in the stock market. And before you know it, 10,000 a month or 20,000 a month, you might not be a millionaire in a year or two, but that is going to grow to be $1 million in a very short time. So I encourage your listeners to look seriously at the stock market.
Yeah, I like that. So I teach persons the 50-30-20 rule and say every single dollar that comes into your pocket, 50% goes to paying for your needs. These are the I need to pay it or it's going cut off. 30% goes to your wants, the nice things that you want, and then 20% has to go to saving and investing. The saving is your emergency fund. The rest of that 20% now is for your investment. So I like the fact that you're reiterating that because it's very good to see that you, as a successful business person and successful financially, that you have used that same process as well to create wealth for yourself. So I like that persons are hearing it straight from you that, hey, this is what I do. So they can take it and implement. Let's talk about probably the steps, the specific step by step approach that you have taken to build your wealth into that millionaire status. What are the steps that persons can take from you and say, well, I was on Money Classroom, I listened to John Murphy, and he said these things, I'm going to follow them. Because that's what we want. We
Well,
want people to be inspired to make
but
a move.
I want to also say to you, there are certain things, as I said to you, the stock market is good. You invest regularly, you don't buy and sell, you hold it for the long term.
Thank you
And
very much.
and that will grow just like real estate. If you buy it today, in 10 years or 20 years it's going to be worth a lot. It might go down in value in 1 year, but over 10 or 20 years, just like the stock market, it's going to go up. There are certain things and also the other thing is what I like too is having a pension fund. Whether your company has, if your company doesn't have one, you can invest in an individual retirement plan at most of the big financial institutions. Your next speaker will talk about that at GMMB. You can open an individual retirement plan. You can put up to 20% of your salary in this savings. You don't pay tax on it comes off, you save tax in taking that money out from the pension fund. And again, you would be surprised to know in 3 or 4 or 5 years, that's worth more than $1 million. And more importantly, when you retire, whether it's 20 years or 30 years, you can live on your savings from your pension and you don't have to depend on anybody. And so a pension is very, very important for you to do. One of the things I don't like is savings through insurance companies.
Wait, hold a second there. That you're unpacking a lot because we talk about a lot of these things in money classroom, and so a lot of people, I'm sure that the money book is full of notes because you hit on a lot just now, right? In terms of I need to be regularly putting funds away for investments. You spoke about doing it through a pension fund because you get tax benefits. Not a lot of people even know that, hey, if I put money into a pension plan, I save on how much taxes I pay. I get to keep more of my money in my pocket. Plus, I'm investing that money. So it's a win-win. More money in your pocket, more investments to grow. This is how you become rich. And now you're going into the second half of it around the insurance, because some people, when you ask them, you say, well, I invest because of an insurance policy. That's what they say. So
Yeah.
tell me your views on that.
Okay. Insurance is good in one respect, what they call term life, which is simply you insure for against, well, not against, you're going to die anyway. You're going to insure your life for the benefit of someone else, whether it is your children or your wife or your husband. And you decide that if you're doing that only because you are making the money for the house. So if you are the wife and you're earning the salary, and if you should die, your children are going to be having a tough time. So you insure your life to protect your children because and that is called term life. It's the cheapest form of insurance, and it's simply you don't get any savings out of it. Whatever the policy value is, if it's 10 million or a million, you pay a small premium against that, and that is for the protection of somebody else. It doesn't help you. The other type of insurance that is available, I think they call it whole life or whatever, but
Right. Yes.
that is intended for savings. That is more for your benefit, so that as you put in the money, it grows a value, and the insurance companies are investing that for you. The problem is that in Jamaica, in particular, the money, it's a very inefficient way of saving money, because the insurance companies take a lot of fees out of managing those monies, and you don't get good returns. So while it's attractive when a nice insurance agent comes and talks to you about taking out life insurance and putting down $20,000 or $30,000 a month to save, it is much better that you take that money and you go and buy money. You invest in a money market instrument, or you invest in the stock market directly, or you invest through a pension fund like we talked about. Insurance companies are very inefficient in investing the money that you put in, and give you very poor returns.
Yeah. So, and it's important to know the purpose of things, because everybody say, I want to be rich, I want to get rich, I want to feel financially secure. but there's a process. And with money, it's a tool. Those who understand how to use it well, right? Same as how you can't take a hammer to do what a screwdriver should be doing. You can't say, let me tighten this screw with a hammer. You have to understand the right type of investment to use to achieve the different goals that you want. So, insurance, not a wealth creation tool. Savings, not a wealth creation tool. So, we
Correct.
know that investing is how you build wealth. You have to
Correct.
invest. And as you go through, we have to be consistent. I know you mentioned that as well, the consistency. I'd love
Correct.
to hear from you. What has been your personal investment philosophy? Because maybe someone can take that away to say, well, let me try and adopt that as well. How have you approached your investments in life?
Well, I must say that I have not been very good at following the advice I have just given you. I was fortunate in the sense of starting my business and eventually going on the stock market, and through the ownership of the company and going on the stock market, I was able to get value in the shares that I had in the company, and I've tended to hold those shares, and that has created wealth. Had I not invested everything I had in the business, then I would have followed the advice of, certainly I had a pension fund, and that has meant a lot in terms of when I reached 65 and started drawing a pension. That was very important. But the other things that I mentioned about the regular savings, the commitment, not pulling the money out for frivolous reasons. We always have reasons to use our savings. Always good reasons. Some of it, you could say is not good, buying an expensive car, going on an expensive vacation. Of course, life is for living, but you also have to think about your own future and how you use that money. So once you put it in savings, once you buy your shares or your real estate, let it sit and be patient, and it'll pay off in the long term.
And
And go ahead.
what do you do in times like these? So these days, some people may not like the buy and hold. They like the flip. Especially with IPOs, I want the 1 day money. 1 day I double my money. 2 day I can triple my money. So that's, exciting. But you're saying, hold for the long term, be patient. Is there room for probably combining the two, or how do you view that? Do you do the short term flips with the long term? How do you mix it?
I haven't found the first of all, flipping is not a good method, whether it's flipping real estate or flipping stocks. To try and judge when to buy and when to sell without expertise behind you doesn't usually pay off. Buying and holding pays off. Buying good stocks or good real estate pays off. That's not to say that you shouldn't buy in a initial public offering, and people have made a little bit of money in buying the stocks that have gone on the junior stock exchange. But as you know, Keisha, it's become so popular now that the companies that go on the junior stock exchange and list generally don't list a lot of shares. They might list $100 million of their company's um, shares, and then when you go and try and buy those shares, you get very little. You might get 5,000 shares or 10,000 shares at a dollar. Typically today, the companies that go on the stock market don't offer enough shares in their IPOs for you to be able to buy enough to make a lot of money. So buying in a initial public offering is good, but don't expect to get rich overnight, because you're not going to end up getting a lot of shares in those initial public offerings.
Right. Well said. Well said. Yeah, we say, he who have the ear, let them hear, because we said it, right? Because some persons rely on it. And I remember last year, a lot of persons got upset because the allocations were so small. And we
Right.
got so used to getting larger allocations. So, you could be making 50,000, 100,000 in a day. That goes away. The more people find out about the trade idea, the more it goes away. What you
Right.
can go wrong with is holding for the long term and being
Right.
patient and buying quality
And,
companies.
and even if you buy on the IPO and you only get 10,000 shares, hold it. Don't bother sell it. What's the point in sell it? What you do then is add to it as the years go by if you think it's a good stock. But as you said, if a company goes on the stock market and offers only 100 million to the public, and you have $5 billion being offered, people, $5 billion, it goes after that 100 million, which is what is happening. So many people go after the IPOs that you only get 1% or 5% of the shares that you ended up. So I'm not saying don't do it, but don't expect to make a lot of money out of it. I do
Yeah,
expect that I do expect, more companies to come on the stock market later this year and certainly earlier next year. I have we our organization that I'm involved with, Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters, has a partnership with the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and we are trying to encourage a lot of our members to go on the stock market. And I expect that between this year and next year, you will see at least another 15 or so companies going on the stock market, and it will give people an opportunity to get into the IPO.
nice, nice. So heard it here first. Heard it here. That's exciting to look forward to. I see also Nicole is saying one thing that stuck with her is be unique. We can't have the Me Too business where we're just doing the same product. We have to find a way to differentiate what we're doing. So, really valuable gems. I'm just going to end with one question that I think will really tie up our discussion really well, which is what would you change? You've had a very successful career, very successful financial journey. What would you do differently, like looking back over all the years?
I think the thing that struck me was that opportunities do come up in life, and if you don't jump on those opportunities, you regret them. Um, and especially if you are working for someone else and you're getting a good salary, you tend to become very careful about jumping on opportunities and doing something different. There's nothing wrong with working and getting a good salary. That's how most of us are. But if we close our eyes to opportunities, then we're going to miss things. So I would say always be on the lookout for something that you think you can get into as a business, or that you can join somebody as a partner. And during your lifetime, things will come up, and don't be afraid to take those opportunities.
Well said. Love that. So seek out opportunities, and when you see them, jump on them. Don't let them pass, right? We don't want to look back and say, well, I could have, and then if I did, it would have worked out better. We want to see them and we know we're going after them. So I have a question here from Percival. Can you share something on the CDF spin-off? Because we'll jump back into the investments now. Can you share anything on CDF spin-off, approvals, timelines, reasons for hold-up?
So CDF is a company we formed. We haven't launched it yet. It's called Caribbean Dreams Foods, and it is going to take over the manufacturing of our teas. And so it's going to start operating on October 1 this year, and we'll operate it for a period of time, and then likely next year we look at going on the we look at trying to go on the stock market. Um, I will say that, like many manufacturing companies, the past year or two has not been very good for us in terms of problems we have encountered with high freight costs and shortage of raw materials. And so when you get ready to go on the stock market, you want to have a little bit of a history of good results so that people have confidence in investing in you. And so I think that we're seeing some improvements. And as I said, the company starts operating in October, and probably next year we will try to get onto the stock market.
Nice. And we have just a few more questions. Tanisha is asking about your viewpoints on dividend paying stocks. That's our favorite. What's your philosophy around dividend paying stocks?
So when you invest in stocks, it's just like real estate too. When you invest in real estate, you're looking at the rental income as one aspect, and you're looking at the increase in the value as the other aspect. In the case of stocks, in Jamaica, we tend to invest in stocks for the capital appreciation because our companies, with a few exceptions, don't pay very well. But when you take companies, one standout company to me is Carreras. They pay really good dividends.
Yes.
It's a solid company. Their dividend yield is probably 7 or 8%, just like a bank interest or better, and it's a solid company and it grows. So, depending on your age and your horizon as an investor, there are some stocks in Jamaica that give good dividend yields. And for an older person, I would go with a company like Careers or one of those that pay very good dividends. But it's not a company that you will see a lot of capital appreciation from because they're in an industry that is not growing. But it's certainly very cash positive.
Nice. All right. Well, we are going to leave it there. A world of gems. I see Maria saying, I really appreciate your advice. Thank you very much. This has been very, very, very educational. I know it because I see the comments coming in. Rochelle is saying food for thought. So everyone is, we're ruminating on what you said. Good gems coming from it. So thank you so much for being here with us, Mr. Mahfood, leaving a world of gems and education. What's the best part, guys? Best thing, students, we have to implement. Can't get all this information and sit back and say, well, great, thank you. Gonna just tuck it away. We want to make sure that you're implementing. So thank you so much for being on, Mr. Mahfood, inside the classroom.